And we're live.
Again,
Quasi quasi do over from last night.
I know that was not cool. I think there were too many people on Fortnite in my house, and I and a storm, and I got kicked off in the middle of everything, and I couldn't get back on for like a really long time. So I apologize if anybody was viewing. Sorry, Michael.
It's fine.
Um,
It was entertaining to say the least. Me trying to carry the two-sided conversation by myself was kind of curious, actually.
did I freeze? Did I freeze on the screen and look like a dope?
You froze. I mean, I don't know if you ever look like a dope, but you did freeze. But
I think I could look like a pretty big moron. So we'll see. I have to go back and watch.
I've got to find it. I don't even think I've categorized it because I just didn't even think about it. Me and my tabs and categorizing
I
things.
know. In libraries.
Yeah, it's great. Um, so I guess we'll start over from last night about being seen and see where the conversation goes and just go from there like we always do. Go on about 27 tyrants and just tirade, whatever. And
A tyrant going on tirades.
yeah. Well,
Yes,
yeah. It was like watching two cartoon characters last night with that debate. But anyway,
it
um,
was.
it it was
So
it was
this stemmed from your article that you wrote about being seen and how you felt about it for the first time in your life, so you said, and what it meant to you. And I too understand what that feels like. And it's pretty miraculous. But sometimes it's like, I think you were saying last night, I don't know how much was recorded, but you were saying how like you truly can't be seen. Well, let me start over by saying that at the darkest time in my life, I will say that the last thing I felt was seen. So it was the saddest, darkest time of my entire life when if you were to ask me what was the matter, I couldn't place it, but I could tell you that I just wasn't being seen. And that's how deeply it affected me. And I didn't start to be really truly seen until I started to like see myself and love myself. And so I think it all stems in the same thread of what we always talk about, which is self-worth and self-love.
but see, I'm the polar opposite, right? Because it was my darkest time, and that's when I was seen. Because that was pretty much my lowest moment in my whole life, and I was seen, and then it propelled me to start working on myself
Right. So I
because of
guess
the
it could work both ways.
inspiration that came from it, right? So I think that for me, it was like almost like having a lighthouse find me in the middle of a hurricane, right? Like that's what it was because my whole life was just a hurricane at that moment, and I was just coming out of, well, actually, it was right before or the beginning of when I started going into a deep depression, and it was right before I got my kids back, and it was just agony. It was just pure pain, and I was
Did
posting
you
videos.
feel it though? Did you feel yourself being seen then? Or is it more now in reflection?
That night that I got the message, I felt seen. I really did, and I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what it was, but I knew that I was drawn to it, and
So the time between then and let's say now, the difference is you understand it more now. You
yeah,
understand what that feeling was.
yeah. Now I have full comprehension of it. Like at the time, I don't think I did because I was just so dark at that moment. But I do know that when it happened, it triggered me wanting more of it, and it triggered me wanting to see what it was. And it was something that was so bright and so powerful that it really snapped me out of that spiral and that negativity space that I was in. Now, granted, the depression continued for another couple months after, but I also had my thyroid that got worse and it was way out of whack. And, I think there was a combination, whether the thyroid triggered the depression or depression triggered the thyroid. I think it's mind over matter. I think either can happen.
I also think that you were in shock during all of it, and then it started to come crashing down on you. So that shock sort of wore off, and it was like, oof, and a rush of everything, and that was part of the depression piece.
Well, and that was the beginning of me being alone, right? Like that was, you know, I'm trying to think, right? So I got to Jonesboro the 23rd. No, I'm sorry, 25th, and I didn't get my kids until March 6th.
So
So
that period of time was like really terrible,
that was me just collapsing upon myself. That was me just, I was alone.
crumbling.
Yeah, I mean, I was alone. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know any single human being other than the people that worked at the
And you
hotel.
didn't know what you were walking into, truly.
No, I had no idea. I mean, it was a complete, it was just a complete unknown in every way humanly possible at that point.
So that was the end of February, beginning of March, correct? And then
Yes,
you got the message in the when?
March 5th,
Okay.
because I
And
posted a video on March 3rd.
so it showed you so you saw the light. That's what you
Yes.
saw.
Yeah.
Because in the darkness, I understand what it's like to be in the darkness and you can't even see. I told you and I've shared this publicly that I was seeing in black and white when I was in my dark times. So I understand that like there's not even a flicker of light sometimes when it's like no hope. And then you have this shred of light that comes in or this sliver of hope and you grasp onto it.
It was like the brightest light I think I've ever seen in my life. And it was this, I don't even know why I listened, right? Because I was talking to my friends daily. I was talking to people daily. I was trying to get myself out of this mental hole that I was digging, and nothing was working. But this one person reaching out had this such profound impact on me that it just changed everything. It completely changed my mindset. And even though I was still in that depression for another couple months after, there was still that hope, right? And it changed everything. It just changed everything. It completely just shifted everything.
And I mean, whatever the case may be, whatever the reason or when or the timing or whatever, it showed you that, if you had a little bit of faith and you leaned into it, that there was a possibility that there was hope that things would turn around. And as hard as they've been, I think they have and are turning around for you in big ways.
I mean, again, right? Like I've talked about this many times. I mean, 2020 is my best year ever. I mean, even the 2 months of depression or 2.5 months was well worth where I am today. I mean, being stuck here, being physically alone, like really alone as an adult. Yes, I have my children. Yes, that means a lot. That means the world to me. I know that they're safe with me, but having no adult interaction, like, is horrible. I mean, I haven't been hugged since February 18th. I mean,
That's really hard. I was going to say, like, the only thing that people can relate to is, quarantine and like there's another element of what's going on in society right now that's sort of dabbling in what you're dealing with, but your solitude is really a lot to handle.
it's challenging, right? Because there's so many good people in my life that want to empathize and want to be there and want to understand. I mean, since I've been here, I've had 5 or 6 people say, I'll come see you. And then they look at a map and it's like, well, I thought it was a couple-hour drive, not a 6-hour drive. I thought it was I have a friend from Dallas and she was like, I want to come see you, but it was 7 hours from where she was going. And it's like, it's every turn that somebody could have, been in my presence and have somebody in front of me. It just, everything was stacked against me. And I guess being forced into this, in a ways, it is a blessing because it's forcing me to look at myself and to just be, which obviously is something I've run from my whole life. So maybe that's my test, right? Is to
Well,
just
it
be.
truly is. Like, people would give you this advice: just be, just work on you, just, basically quarantine, don't have a lot of social interaction, just do you and all that stuff. And you are being actually forced to do that. So, in a way, it's a gift, in a way.
Yes.
because there's probably no way you would do it in real life. In real life.
No, no. I mean, if I was home, I mean, I would never be where I am today, and I know that. And
So that's a
if I was
gift.
if I was anywhere but here, I wouldn't be able to do it, right? Even where I want to go, or even where I want to be. I mean, there's places that I want to be more than anything on this planet right now. But even if I was there, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And as heart wrenching as that is at times, and as much as it just shreds me down to nothing, because it does, I know I'm here for the reasons I am, and it's going to propel me forward, in the long run.
It
And
reminds me of turning just like really bad times into a positive, just finding opportunity in all of this when you could just crumble and you're not. So you know that now. You didn't used to, but you know that now. And you can't. You can't and you won't.
well, and that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, I look back at my life, and I've had many opportunities to crumble, and for many different reasons I never have. And I don't really understand most of them, because I think most people would. But I don't know any other way. I just don't, right? Like, I don't know how to give up. I don't know how to walk away. I don't know how to, um, do those things, right? And now, granted, there's parts of me that have that issue, right? Like, there are emotional scars and emotional wounds that I've been working on and healing while here, that before this, I mean, shit. I mean, even as a friend, if you were to bring up intimacy, I'd run the fucking other direction.
Mhm.
Like, really don't think I've ever experienced intimacy on a real level. And for me, that's terrifying. And it
People
always
don't
has.
really understand what intimacy is. People think that it's like sex or hugging and kissing, or I mean, there's intimacy that's much different than just human touch. There's conversation and there's other parts of intimacy that you probably have run from and maybe would, but you can't really know right now.
Well, and I think that this is part of this process for me, right? It's moving past all those things, so that I can truly just be my best self and truly be the truest self I can be on a daily basis. Um, you know, but I also think that even with my past, right, like the sex thing and the physical touch thing, and what I've learned is that there is deeper intimacy than even that, right? Like, that is just
Oh,
an
for
act,
sure.
and that just, that passes. But if the bond and the intimacy isn't there on a deeper level, then it's pointless. And
Yeah.
the fact that I've never really had both of them together, right, which is another issue, because I never allowed it. It was always just doing the act, and it was always just, whatever, that physical experience.
But you're learning now to allow in general. So that therefore in that situation, I think you could allow too. Like you're learning in general what allowing means.
Thank you, Kenny. Uh,
It's true, Kenny.
um,
Like you're really in general, like your overarching learning is to allow. So, that's going to be applied to all aspects of your life that you're going to go forward and just allow things that you would have never allowed before.
and I agree, right? I actually 100% agree, and that going forward, I'll never be the same again, and I will never look back, right? Like, when the opportunity does come, I will be ready for it, and I will be welcoming it, right? And I think that maybe that's where I'm just meant to be right now, is in this stagnant stalemate type situation, to where it's forcing me to work all this crap out, so that I can go and be my best self and fulfill whatever purpose and destiny I have. Because
Listen, I mean, I'm not stuck in Arkansas and I'm in it to a certain extent doing very much the same thing. I mean, I am in a situation that I'm not intimate with. I don't want to say intimate, but I'm not like with anyone, I'm not dating anyone. It's just is what it is right now. And I'm focusing on lots of other areas. I'm sort of being forced to. Some days I don't want to, but it is what it is. And it's forcing me to sort of understand that I'm okay and enough myself. And
well, and that's a big part, right? I mean, because if you look at my past, that's enormous for me. And that's a huge piece that I never had. Whether I was hiding behind addiction, whether I was or drugs or porn or strippers or whatever it was, right? There was always so much that I hid behind over the years. I hid behind my shitty marriage for all those years, right? Like, I mean, I always hid from anything relevant to
Well, that's
myself.
what we did. That's what we did. And that's what we're not doing now, right? Like, I'm not hiding behind those things either. I mean, I'm not running to old habits and doing things that I used to do and bad decision making. And I'm like sitting with it. And it's hard.
Well,
It's hard.
I mean, we're not abandoning ourselves anymore, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's it, right? And that's
So,
really what it
so
comes.
running to those things is actually abandoning and leaving yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Because just because it fills a short-term void, right? Which is why addicts want to do more and more and more drugs and more drugs and more drugs. At least that's what I did. I mean, I did as many as I could, and God knows I pretty much died many different times. But I mean, like,
You were not meant to die, or you would have.
oh, yeah, pretty much. I mean, if I wasn't dying 25 hits of ecstasy a night for 9 months straight, then you know, I'm still here for a reason. Um,
I was
I
a
think
lightweight, but I still did my fair share. So
I think that was my version of exercise to get the heart rate up. But I lost like 130 pounds in 9 months. It was crazy.
anyway, moving on. That is
Um,
not that is not a diet.
no, no, it was interesting though. But like when I look at those things and I look at the short term fill, right? And I guess in this situation, right, the most relevant I can think of is that my strip club addiction for years, right? Like, and that was a long time. It was my go-to because there was never intimacy involved,
Well, I
and it
was
was
just going to say that's exactly the same thing as a porn addiction. It's exactly the same
right.
thing as why people do drugs. It's like you get so caught up in that that you don't have to face any of your feelings. There's no the word is intimacy. That's the only
Yeah.
word that I can say to describe it. There's no connection. It's just completely detached and disconnected. But you're doing something, so you feel like you're doing something, and you're feeling this and feeling this and feeling this, and it's just like leaves you so incredibly empty.
Oh my God, it's so much worse than before, right? Like it just creates this black hole, and then you're constantly trying to chase it to fill it, and it's
Yep.
you know. And then when I look at now, right, and I think that's part of being seen, right? That's part of what's made being seen so powerful for me because it created an intimacy that I've never experienced before, and it created a bond that I've never experienced before, and I was open to it because of where I was at, and I allowed it. I just allowed it, right? And it's magical. It really is magical, and I don't know how else to describe it. And the impact that this circumstance and situation has had on me will never leave me the same ever again. I mean, it's just that powerful. It's unbelievable. And who knows what happens over time? But I just can't imagine that ever being found again or filled by anything else ever. And that's what I'll yearn for the rest of my life, and what I'll look for the rest of my life.
I understand. It is a magical thing that you find, and you're like, am I ever going to find this anywhere else again? And do I even want to?
I think it's more of the do I even want to, because I think what this has created for me never can be replicated in any way, shape, or form. And I know that people say, well, you'll find something else, you can find someone else, you can do this, you can do that. But at the end of the day, this circumstance will never be found again, ever. And I know that, and I believe that in my heart of hearts. And whatever I go on to my next lifetime, maybe there's a chance there, but not in this one. You know, and I'm at the point now, but I'm at the point now where I've settled so many times in my life, I'll never settle again.
I understand. Trust me, I get it. I think, no matter what, I think you have to come back to present and be grateful for having that experience, no matter what happens. At least for me, like that's not a, oh, I'm never going to have that again. That's a, oh, I'm never going to have that again kind of way of looking at it. That perspective for me is like I have such gratitude in that space of That is just for what you're describing is just a really, really special thing.
It is, and I've come to the terms with the fact that you know, if I never find it again, I'm so grateful for what I've had, and so grateful for whatever period it lasts that it's enough to fill me for the rest of my life, and it will always push me to be better than my best self each day.
And there you go. Then that's a gift
It is a gift. It's the
in and
biggest
of
gift.
itself.
It's the most amazing gift, and the reality is the gift that it was to me is now the gift that it is to my children, right? Because it's pushed me to be my best self, which now has made me better for them and everyone else around me,
Well,
right? And
you have pushed you to be your best self. You did that on your own. It may have been the impetus, but you have done all of that work on your own. You've become your best self for your children, and they are seeing that and you modeling the way. So just let's be clear on that.
well, I did it for myself. And in turn, by doing it for myself, I did it for my children and I did it for everyone else that's in my life that I care about, right? Because it's impacted everyone in my life. The
Mhm.
interaction changed, the conversations have changed, the way that I react to situations have changed, the way that they react to me has changed. It's changed my whole world. And when people can't grasp that, the only thing that they need to understand is that if you change you, everyone around you changes. If they're not
Well,
if they're not meant to be in your life anymore, they disappear and the right people find
mhm.
you. And you talked about that on the podcast that was posted today, right? That as you've been going through your change, you've been attracting a different energy level of people, and it's like a different world for you. It's like
It
every
really is true. It's unbelievable what you put out comes back to you. And it just goes to show you that when you're stuck, why you stay stuck. And when you finally come out and you rise from the ashes and you get unstuck and you really put your best foot forward and act as your best self and do the right thing and do the next best thing and lead the way and model the way and based on your core values, at least for me, like honesty, loyalty, like that's what surrounds you. People that are good. Goodness comes to you when you put out goodness to the world. It
well,
sounds
and
almost cheesy, but it's not, it's true.
but I also think that you also talked about, when you help somebody else heal, you're healing yourself, right?
A
So I think
hundred
that
percent why I do what I do every day.
right, I think that's a huge part of it also, right? Because when you start surrounding yourself with the right people, the ones that are on your energy level, let's just say that for argument's sake, they're not really the takers anymore, right? They're the ones that
Right.
are there in reciprocal relationships that will support you when you're having a down moment. You support them when they're having a down moment, and it
Yeah.
becomes this. Again, the bond just changes, and
And
the
instead of energy sucking from everybody, there's energy giving
right,
from
and,
everybody. And so it's like a big energy giving party.
yeah, 100%. And it goes back to when we're doing these lives, and when you're doing your lives, you know, giving out so much at all times and you're putting yourself out there so much and you exude this energy about you and this light about you that just makes everyone smile, right? Because that's just who you are. And
Yeah.
I think in so many ways it's you're just constantly putting it out there, right? Your energy, and you're constantly, you know,
Well, and we were talking about that before this. Like sometimes I wonder if I put out too much, like I give, like I was watching myself in that podcast tonight and I was like, God, like I give everything to the nth degree in everything that I do. I give all of me. And it's to a point of, sometimes I wonder if it's healthy or not. But at the same time, like I just have a lot of love and a lot of goodness to give. And I'm really, really, really passionate about what I feel and what I'm doing in my life. So if that's what I have to do and I expend a lot of energy doing that, that's okay. I'm okay with that.
well, what I've learned about you over this period of time, right, is that when you go with such extreme intensity and such extreme passion that you have no other choice but to give that, right? And I do that a lot as well. I just do it a little bit different way. But I do it a lot, right? And as I think we're both evolving in our own ways, we're learning the different little tricks to teach ourselves, and we're learning different ways that, you know, okay, when I'm empty, I can't keep giving what I'm giving, right? Or
Right.
when I'm at a quarter tank, I can't keep giving it all, right? Because I need to reserve some to stay awake to move upstairs. Like
That's
it's
just as knowing your triggers too, like
yeah.
catching it before it happens. Like that's what I'm really trying to get better at. Where I'm like, okay, I need to catch myself right now. I'm giving so much, I'm going to collapse before the day's over. So I need to really work on that and just
See,
keep working through that.
and what's funny is my triggers are much different than yours because those aren't really triggers for me. What's triggers for me is what pushes fear, right? Like my triggers are they trigger, past experiences that of abandonment, of loss, of not being worth shit, of just all these things, and that's how my triggers manifest. Like they bring those feelings right to the surface again, being less than, not being worth it, not having a
Mhm.
value. Really, am I really in this for the right reasons? Am I really doing things because it's the right thing to do, or am I doing it for selfish reasons? And these are things that weigh on me, but I also think that's the reason that I know I'm doing it for the right reason because I actually care. So,
Right.
like,
Right.
I
So
mean,
it's a cycle.
right. But, those are the triggers that really get me, right? The ones that are, you know, that I'm getting scared because something's happening and I don't want to do this. I don't want to get too close. I don't want to take this leap. I don't want to, whatever it might be, right?
Mhm.
Business, personal, professional. I mean, with kids, right? Boundaries, whatever you're trying to do.
Mhm.
Do I want to cross that line? Do I not want to cross that line? Do I want to take a chance? Do I not want to take a chance? These are all things that I really those are the things that get me, right? And because what my children went through is similar to what I went through in some ways, that triggers me in a lot of ways also. Like how do I
Sure.
react and how do I handle them? Um, but again, I think, having my circle now that I have the utmost amount of trust for, obviously is helping a great deal there because I know that I can pick up the phone and get somebody on the phone that could be there for me.
Absolutely. And reaching out for support and leaning into that is super important. And that's actually courageous. Some people think that it's weak to ask for help. I may or may not be one of those people that ends up thinking that sometimes, but I know in my heart of hearts that asking for help is actually a strength. It's just a barrier for me. It's
It's
something
a
that
tough hard though, right? Because it's that thing like if I ask for help, am I really weak? If I ask for help, am I really less than? And then
right.
and that's a trigger for you, right? It's like a
Yep.
trigger. It triggers those thoughts, For my side of it is, am I a burden? Am I over,
Oh
doing
yeah, me too though, Michael. Me too.
that's
I
that's
never
a
want to be a problem. I never want to be an issue. I never want to be like an obstacle. I just want to make it easy. Just make everything nice and easy. And if I can just keep everything nice and easy, everyone will be happy and then I can be perfectly happy little Annie. And it's like so not how life is. Like you're allowed to ask when you need some help. You're allowed. That doesn't make you a burden. That's what I would
well
say to you if I was giving you advice to
and,
give it to
and I
myself.
and I think one thing that everybody's learned through COVID is that convenience is always the answer either, right? Like convenience, as easy as it may seem, isn't always the answer. It's just not, right? For us to be our truest selves, sometimes we need to take that leap and do things a little bit of the harder way, whether it's career, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Like, I
The
mean,
challenge, the risk.
yeah, I mean, you're moving, you just started a new role, you're doing all these different things, you're homeschooling kids, you're taking them to sports, I mean, you're
Mhm.
running a crazy person, right? So, you
It's
know,
a
take
lot.
taking any additional risk is terrifying. And it's but when you know it's right, you know it's right.
And it
And
is. And then when you feel it in your bones, that's a different kind of risk you just have to take.
yeah, and it's one of those things, right? So I feel like there's just so much into this that we can literally go on for days,
Yeah.
it, but that's a big part of this, right? Like being seen is a risk, allowing yourself to be seen is a risk, right?
Allowing is a
Allow
risk, actually.
general,
Allowing.
right? Like I mean, when I have my moments and I'm in that downswing and something's spiraling on me, allowing myself to feel it is terrifying, right?
Yep.
And not doing the self-care to
Not
trigger that.
centering, not coming back to center, not self,
Right.
putting yourself first, for, at least for a little bit of the day.
Yeah, I think that was yesterday. No, that was the day before. I mean, like,
They all blend together.
right. I mean, it happens, right? I mean, because
It does.
we're so busy that sometimes it just slips through the cracks, and it's there's days I forget to eat for 12 hours, and
I
I really
know.
can't do that. Like, it's
Well, that's why we're here to remind each other, right?
yeah, 100%. I mean, that's what we're here for. So, any final closing moments?
Just always be living with attitude. It's the way to do things. It's the way I roll.
There you go. I try to
Yeah.
live with.
Oh, yeah.
I
You
try.
do. You
I
do.
do. I try.
You do. You do a good job at it.
All right.
Um, well, that was fun. I'm glad we talked about all that. There's a million more things to talk about, and we'll be back.
Definitely. Have a great night, everybody. Bye, Kenny.
Good night. Bye, Kenny.
Oh, shit.